Hey, what is going on, guys? This is DK, back at you with another video here, trading the 3-game CSGO main slate on Tuesday. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name's DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, and esports daily fantasy sports slates. Esports including Call of Duty, League of Legends, and this one, Counter-Strike CSGO. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the video. Before we get into players and the prices for this 3-game slate, what we can do is we can look back at my lineup here from Monday. So Monday I only went with the showdown slate, didn't get to enter the main slate in time here. But it was a slate that, there were 3 decently sized favorites, but I felt like each game was almost 50-50 shot, right? That Fnatic versus Spirit game. Spirit ended up winning. Fnatic guys were pretty chalky just because they were favorites. FaZe took out Godsent. That was a close game. And then I was pretty high on those C9 guys. C9 pulled off, especially Floppy, who's the thumbnail of my video. So I just made a showdown slate here with Floppy, MOTM, OC, and Breezy. Normally that's the kind of the way I like to attack the showdown slates, to go with a 3-1 build. Right, a 2-2 build. It's probably more contrarian. But yeah, Floppy in the captain spot, MOTM, OC, those are the 3 guys I mentioned on the C9 side. Floppy especially. He had a really, really good game there. 69 kills, 54 deaths. So we got in the cash there. But that basically wraps it up. What we can do is we can look back at some of the other stats from the earlier games. So the Fnatic versus Spirit game against Spirit took it 2-0. Fnatic's just been very up and down recently here. They actually, I believe, lost their last 3 games. They lost to NIP, Movistar Riders, and now they lost to Spirit. So they've been, like I said, a little bit up and down. Everyone went negative. Again, no one really had a good game here. If we look on the Spirit side, I mentioned Mir was my favorite play. He was pretty solid, went plus 13. Chopper and Magix actually did a little bit better. And then Sumdai Young was a really cheap price point. I think he's 5.8K. He was pretty good for his price, right? 34 and 32. Can't really complain there. And then if we look to FaZe versus Godsent, we had an overpriced Cold Zero do really, really well. He was 9K. He was definitely overpriced, but he paid off. If you went a little bit contrarian build and went for him, he definitely paid off for you. Like I said, I thought he's a little bit overpriced, but he had a really, really good game with 71 and 45 plus 26. Nico was pretty solid, 64 and 51. Again, he was a little bit overpriced as well, but you know what you're getting in with Nico, right? He's got a pretty high floor and a pretty high ceiling. Brokey was solid, went plus 16. Rain was decent for value. Mentioned him. I believe he was in the 6.4K that slate, I believe. And then BMS was the new addition, subbing in for Olaf Meister's taking a break. He went plus 1, 46 and 45. Not great, but you can't really complain. He was, I believe, 5K salary. And he even mentioned, he tweeted out that he was pretty nervous. He was nervous about making mistakes. So maybe he gets a little bit more comfortable in this next game here. He's a young guy. He's 16 years old, but we'll talk about that more in a bit. On the Godsent side, it was Farlig's first game. He was decent, 52 and 51. They struggled in map 3. Styko, Zen, Madden all went negative. Crystal's never a guy I really consider. He went negative 33, actually. So that basically wraps it up for the look back. So now let's look at players and their prices for this slate. First, let's look at the Vegas odds here. We have FaZe Clan versus Team Spirit. FaZe Clan are minus 200 favorites. Fnatic versus Godsent. Fnatic are actually the biggest favorites of the day at minus 345. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that's one Godsent can definitely take. I think almost that one's 50-50. And then the last game here is 100 Thieves versus Gen G. We have Gen G at minus 130 favorites. That's one's basically a pick 'em, and the price tags in that game are pretty appealing. So I think the key to this slate is getting that last game, that 100 Thieves Gen G game, right. If you get that game right, I think you're going to be in amazing shape. Overall, I think the team I feel the most confident is actually FaZe. I know Olaf Meister, taking a break maybe messes with the chemistry a little bit, but he was probably the worst player on that team, and subbing in a younger player maybe changes up a little bit. Maybe they could even be better. You could argue they could be better. So I think I feel the most confident in FaZe winning this first game. So let's talk about it. Spirit versus FaZe. I know Spirit won 2-0 versus Fnatic. Their price tags are very, very appealing once again. Mur, Chopper, IDS Balance, Sumdai Young, even Magic's had a really good game, are all certainly in play here. Mur at 7.2K is still my favorite play if you want to get to this side. He had a pretty decent game, didn't have the best game. I think it was Chopper and Magic's that had the best games. But, overall, if we're just looking at the overall numbers, right, if we go to Spirit, Mir has the best overall numbers at almost 0.8 kills per round compared to everyone else's team. Now, everyone else in the team does have pretty decent numbers as well. No one really gets carried. So you could really make an argument for any of these guys, right? Like everyone has a positive KD if you're just scrolling through these guys. So maybe a little bit more balanced team, but if we're just looking at overall numbers, who do I think has the most upset? I think it is Mir at a 7.2K price point. Now, I really think you can make an argument for any of these other guys, whether it be Chopper, IDS Balance, Sumdai Young, and Magic's. Now, the two guys that had the big games today were Chopper and Magic's, right? They had Chopper went plus 17, Magic's went plus 14, and Mir was good to a plus 13. But I think I talk about it all the time, the recency bias, right? So those two guys had the biggest game last game. They're going to be the highest owned on the Spirit side, Chopper and Magic. So for that reason, maybe I'll look to pair Mir with either Sumdai Young or IDS Balance, who didn't have the best games, but we know, again, it's a very balanced team, and if I'm going to get them at lower ownership, then I'll take that all day. So, personally, am I going to go with the Spirit side? I don't think so. I just feel pretty good at this FaZe team right now. They've really been playing well. I know, again, subbing out Olafmeister maybe messes with the chemistry a little bit, but he was the worst. I think he was the worst player on their team, so yeah, all in all, the Spirit side is intriguing. Definitely a little bit more contrarian. Personally, though, I'm going to probably go with the FaZe side. So on the FaZe side, we have, you're going to have to pay premiums for some of these guys. Nico's at 10K, Brokey's at 9K, Cold Zero's at 8.4. They even raised Rain's price to 7.8K. Now, if we're just looking at that last game, Cold Zero is going to be the absolute chalk, in my opinion, tomorrow. Because he went plus 26, 71 and 45, and his price actually dropped. He was 9K last slate, now he's 8.4. So Cold Zero is a guy that I think is going to be really, really popular. I'm not saying he's a bad play. I think he's a pretty good play, especially with his price dropping. I do like Cold Zero. But I think you could make an argument to fade if you think the ownership's going to be that high, right? I really do think he's going to be one of the chalkier, if not the chalkiest play of the day tomorrow. So, you could always look elsewhere to try to get a little bit contrarian, right? Maybe pay a little bit more for Brokey or a little bit less for Rain. But yeah, I do like Cold. If you're playing cash games, I think he's one of the better plays at that price point. Nico at 10K, same thing. I think you're overpaying a little bit for him, but you really are paying for the upside here. He's got a pretty high floor as well, and he's a guy that can get you into the hundreds in fantasy points. So I think he's a really good option if you can get to him, right? I do think you're probably going to have to overpay a little bit, but there's some cheaper options in that, Gen G, 100 Thieves game we'll talk about at the end. And I think that game is kind of the key one to get right. And then, yeah, Brokey, using the op at 9K, I think it is a little bit overpriced. So he's someone that, I think is a little bit more of a contrarian play, and I think Cold Zero is going to be really chalky. He's probably the safest option. Rain at 7.8K, again, a little bit more contrarian with him and Cold Zero being pretty similar in prices. I would just prefer, again, to Cold Zero if we're ignoring ownership, right? If we're talking ownership, again, you could make the argument to get to Brokey or Rain over Cold Zero because Cold Zero, in my opinion, is probably going to be the chalk tomorrow. And then BMS at 5K, I think he's intriguing, right? He even talked about how he was nervous that first game coming up to play for FaZe. Maybe the nerves cool off a little bit after getting one game in him. Right? He didn't even look bad, 46 and 45. I think he's someone at that price point that I'm interested in. I know it's a little bit risky. I haven't really seen a lot of him besides today. So there's definitely risk involved. But at a 5K price point, I think he's someone that I might take a shot on here. So that really wraps up for FaZe. Let's now move on to Godsend versus Fnatic. So again, if we're just looking at the Vegas odds, Vegas seems pretty confident that Fnatic can win this one, minus 345 favorites. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think this one could really go either way. So let's talk about it, right? Fnatic has really been struggling. Again, they've lost their last 3 games. They've just been up and down. You just don't know where you're going to get at Fnatic, really. You could get like a Brolin dominant game, right? Or, if we're just talking about the last 3 games, they've really not looked good. It's kind of like a Mouse Esports. They're just continuing to let people down. So let's talk about their prices first. On the Godsend side, They're the underdogs. I think this is a team that's going to go pretty low owned because, again, a lot of people are just going to look at those odds and kind of ignore these guys. I don't think that's correct. One of my favorite plays of the day here is Farlig at 8K. Now, it was his first game getting back into it with Godsent, so there's obviously some chemistry issues there playing with a new team, but he's just a guy that has huge upside. He's played really well against really good teams. He can get you 90, 100 fantasy points, right? He put up 117 against, they don't even have that team up there right now, but I forget who that was. Maybe it was Mouse Esports. I know he had a really good game against them. He uses the op too. Using the op, another thing I just wanted to bring up is it does kind of help your KD a little bit because in rounds where maybe you have a couple of your teammates die early, then usually you go for the save of the op. And by saving, you mean you just kind of play and spawn and wait for either the other team to plant the bomb or for them to defuse it, right? So you kind of just let the other team win the round, but save the gun. So just thought I'd bring that up for the guys that use the op. You could argue it does help their KD a little bit because there's more save opportunities, right? They want to save that op. It's a really expensive gun to buy in the economy, but that does help the KD a little bit in those scenarios where they do save. But yeah, Farlig at 8K, I like him a lot. I know, again, getting used to the new team, but 8K, I think that has a lot of upside on his price. And then Madden, Zen, Styko. I think these are all guys that are viable as well. Again, Crystal's never a guy I look to, and he struggles a lot. In killing, I think he's like historically 0.5 kills per round, 0.7 deaths per round. But that's good for everyone else in the team. They have to do more in the killing department. Again, Farlig would be my preferred play using the op. Madden, Zen, and Styko are all about the same price points, are all very, very similar plays for me. They have very similar numbers. Madden, 0.73 kills per round, 0.70 deaths per round. Zen, 0.71 kills per round, 0.66 deaths per round. Styko, 0.7 kills per round, 0.67 deaths per round. So they're very, very similar. I don't really have a strong lean either way. I think the guy that's probably going to be the most popular besides Farlig will probably be Styko just because he's a little bit cheaper. But all three of those guys are in play, and my preferred play would be Farlig. And I like him a good amount. I think just because of those odds, he's going to go overlooked in the slate. But he's one of my favorite plays for sure. And then the Fnatic side. So the big question for me is, what do I want to do with Fnatic here? They're so up and down. They've lost the last 3 games. They really haven't looked good. Brolin at 8.6K is the guy that has the most upside in this team. The issue is they're a little bit more balanced besides Golden. Golden doesn't do a whole lot. He will have a good game here and there. But Flusha, Crims, JW can all have decent games, right? JW uses the op. So that is, I guess, the slight concern is he's not really a hard carrier, right? They're a little bit more balanced besides Golden. But if we're just talking upside, again, he does have the most upside of these guys. He's put up 80, 90, he put up 110 there against Mouse Esports. He's a very aggressive player, too. If you watch his play, he's like a hunter, right? He's like a Bubsky. He's going to push a lot. So, sure, maybe a little bit more risky, but when he's playing well, he does have that potential for a big upside game. So, of these guys, I would prefer Brolin. I know he's the most expensive, but, the price has dropped a little bit on him. 8.6K, I think, is a very fair price point. With Flusha, Crims, JW, I think my next favorite play would be Crims. I know he struggled a little bit recently, but 7.6K I think is a pretty decent price point for him. I think he's going to be pretty low owned just because of his struggles recently, but historically he has pretty good numbers. 0.70 kills per round, 0.63 deaths per round. JW is about an even KD, and Brolin has pretty decent numbers. Flusha as well. Again, they're a little bit more balanced, but again, of everyone on that team, Brolin does have the most upside. I think my next favorite play would be Crims, though, for that price point. JW, I think, is still in play at 6.8. I think he's going to be a little bit more popular, too. It's just a cheap price for a guy that they are the biggest favorites. So, yeah, I think he's going to be someone that is going to be a little bit more popular today. Golden at 5.4. What you're hoping for there is the 2-0. I don't know if the 2-0 is going to happen. Again, I don't necessarily agree with Vegas here. I think this game could go either way, or maybe even Godsent could pull off the upset here. So Golden's probably not going to guy I'm going to be looking to. I look to those cheap options when I feel pretty confident the team can 2-0. Right? This is one where I'm not that confident there. So all in all, in this game, normally I go for upside. For lineup construction, it's a 2-2-2 stack. I'm thinking about splitting this one. This is one, I don't normally do that. I don't normally play players from opposite sides, but this is a game where I'm thinking about it, right? A guy like Brolin, maybe pair him with Farlig. That's that's something I might mess with right now. But yeah, that basically wraps it up. Again, brief overview. I don't necessarily agree with the Vegas odds. I think this game could go either way, with Fnatic struggling a lot recently. Last game here, we have Gen G versus 100 Thieves. So this is the game that's going to swing the slate, in my opinion. Because if we're just looking at price points, everyone is really cheap. The Gen G side, the most expensive player, 7.4K. The 100 Thieves side, same thing, 7.4K. So some really cheap salaries. If you get on the right side of this game and your team 2-0s, you're going to be in really good shape. So again, the Vegas odds, it's basically pick 'em right now. Gen G are really small favorites, -130 compared to -110 at 100 Thieves. Let's talk about players and their price points here. So on the Gen G side first, we have Automatic is the most expensive player at 7.4. Costa, Bennett, and Sam. Costa and Bennett at 7K, Sam, SOM at 6K, and Daps at 4.8K. So guy I kind of cross off here. I don't think we have to do it as Daps. There's just, I don't think you have to. Again, I would prefer maybe getting to a BMAS for FaZe if you're going to look for a really cheap option. So he's someone I kind of ignore. Doesn't have great numbers, like 0.56 kills per round, 0.65 deaths per round. Everyone else, though, has pretty decent numbers. Automatic has the best KD on the team over the last few months, 0.7 kills per round, 0.6 deaths per round. Costa and Bennett are also decent as well. Costa, 0.71 kills per round, 0.66 deaths per round. Bennett, 0.69 kills per round, 0.64 deaths per round. And Sam, I think, is viable as well. Even KD, again, he's kind of in that range, like a JW. I think it is interesting for value. I think my favorite play for the price, I mean, he's just cheap. Automatic, he will use the AWP as well. I have some interest in him. I think he has the best overall numbers. For 7.4K, that's a cheap price point. Now, again, the concern with this Gen G team is they're a little bit more balanced. And you could say the same thing about 100 Thieves. They're a little bit more balanced team. So, again, I think getting this game right is going to be key. If you can get on the right side and get the right guys in, you're going to be in amazing shape because of the cheap salaries on both sides. But I think Automatic would probably be my favorite play. Between Costa and Bennett, it's almost a toss-up. I think I would slightly give the edge to Bennett, but that one's really close too. I think Psalm is in play as well at a 6K price point. He's okay, right? The last few months has a 1.0 KD, so he's someone that is still in play as well. All right, let's move on to 100 Thieves. So again, you can make the same argument here with Gen G with 100 Thieves. They're a pretty balanced team. We have Gratisfaction at the highest price at 7.4K, then JKS 7.2. Jakeem at 6.4, AZR at 6.2, and Liaz at 5.2. So looking at the numbers, Liaz is a guy that's not terrible, but I don't know if we have to. Well, I wouldn't say that. I think he is in play for value. What if you play him? You kind of are hoping for the 2-0, which is possible. And he doesn't have terrible numbers for a guy being that cheap. So I think he is someone kind of like a BMAS, right? That is in play for cheap option. I wouldn't say he's out of play. So he's someone that still is viable. Doesn't have great numbers, but 5.2K is a pretty cheap price point. And then we have JKS, has decent numbers, right? 0.69 kills per round, 0.58 deaths per round. Gratisfaction, 0.68 kills per round, 0.65 deaths per round. Jakeem is slightly positive, 0.71 kills per round, 0.69 deaths per round. And AZR slightly negative there, 0.64 and 0.66. So, like I said, there's no one's stats are going to blow you out of the water here. I think the top two plays, if you can get to them, are Gratisfaction and JKS. I think Jakeem is in play as well. You're getting him at a little bit discount off those two guys, and he's averaging 0.71 kills per round. I think that's the most on his team, just kills. So he's a little bit more of an aggressive player, right? So he's someone that maybe is my favorite player on her teams. I might take that back. I think I like him a little bit more. And if we're looking at just Draftkings points per game, right? People are probably going to look at that and just want to get JKS and Gratisfaction, but Jakeem's a guy that you're getting at a little bit of a discount. I think he makes for a pretty good cheap option here. So I think Jakeem, for his price, would probably be my favorite play. And then JKS and Gratisfaction, very, very similar plays. I think I would slightly give the edge to JKS if I had to pick. But yeah, all in all, again, this game is the one is the key to the slate, in my opinion. If you can get it right, you're going to be in amazing shape. So let's talk about players I'm considering for the captain spot. So if we're just talking for a cash game setting, right, it's probably going to be maybe like a guy like Nico. I know he's slightly overpriced, but he has enormous upside, and you're going to get 1.5x that. So Nico's a guy, even at 10K, I'm definitely considering. A guy like Brolin, 8.6K, right? They're the biggest favorites of the day. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think Brolin on the Fnatic side is my favorite play. He's a very aggressive player, so I like his upside for cash games. And Cold Zera, he's going to be very, very popular tomorrow. Farlig's a guy that I think goes a little bit lower owned just because, again, people are going to look at those odds, maybe kind of just go with the Fnatic side. But I like Farlig a good amount. Yeah, I'm considering, going on both sides of this, maybe pairing Farlig with Brolin. That's something I'm considering on this slate. Other options, again, now we get to like the 100 Thieves Gen G game. Guys, again, like JCast, Gratisfaction, or like Automatic, Costa Bennett. Those are all guys that have pretty big upside for their prices. So getting that game right is going to be key. You can even look to one of those cheaper Godsent guys, right? If you want to go that Godsent stack, because Fnatic's been struggling, and pair someone with Farlig. I think, Madden, Zen, and Styko are all viable as well. And the really cheap options, like, do you want to take a shot on one of those cheap Spirit guys, right? Again, I'm probably going with the FaZe route, but Magic, Sumdai Young are decent for their price points. Sam as well. BMS for FaZe at 5K, I think is interesting as well. He's a young guy. He was a little bit nervous today. Maybe he has a slightly better game. The nerves kind of wear off. So if you look to, maybe throw him in the captain spot or Jakeem, I think those two would probably be my favorite value plays right now. But if you look to, let's just say we throw BMS in there in the captain spot. Again, I know he's risky, he's a young guy, but if you throw him in there, that's 8.5K remaining. You can basically just plug in whoever else you want in there. So that's always an option. But yeah, again, personally, I'm probably going to go Nico in the captain spot. I know he's a little bit overpriced, but I just really like his upside. I feel pretty good with FaZe winning this one. So that's probably the way that I go. Again, I haven't messed with roster construction too much, but that's where it's looking right now. But yeah, I think that is going to do it for the video, guys. So if you have been enjoying the content so far, I really appreciate it if you could leave a like in the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell. Hitting the notification bell does really help me out, guys. So yeah, thanks again for everyone coming and check the video. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you guys all in the next one.